Hey folks, it's Mark Marin from WTF. Today I want to talk to you about Boost Mobile, offering reliable nationwide coverage backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Love your service or get your money back, no questions asked. Boost Mobile offers the coverage, network speed, and service you're used to, but at more affordable prices. Why pay more if you don't have to? You can get an unlimited plan for $25 a month that will never increase in price, ever. No price hikes, no multi-line requirements, no stress. Visit your nearest Boost Mobile store or find them online at boostmobile.com. After 30 gigabytes, customers may experience slower speeds. Customers will pay $25 per month as long as they remain active on the Boost Unlimited plan.
You know what's wild? Most people are still overpaying for car insurance just because it's a pain to switch. That's why there's Jerry. Jerry's the only app that compares rates from over 50 insurers in minutes and helps you switch fast with no spam calls or hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Before you renew your car insurance policy, do yourself a favor. Download the Jerry app or head to jerry.ai/acast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kilowatt, a podcast about electric vehicles, renewable energy, autonomous driving, and much, much more. My name is Bodie, and I am your host. And on today's episode, we are going to cover Tesla's master plan. And not just one master plan. We're going to talk about all four master plans. So if you haven't heard, Tesla released, or Elon released, Tesla's master plan, part 4. And I read it, and I watched the video. And I was like, man, I am having very specific feelings about this video. Am I out of line here? So I went back and I read part 1. I read part 2. I looked through part 3. Part 3 is this like tome of like 40 pages and whatever. We're going to talk about it, but we're not going to go over the whole part 3. And then part 4, and I was like, part 3 feels different. Part 4 feels very different. And honestly, I wasn't 100% sure how I was going to present this, because I could have, been very vague about all of the previous master plans, 1, 2, and 3, or I could have gotten like really granular with it and gone overboard and had a 2 or 3 hour show. And I have a huge amount of notes that I could potentially go through. The thing is, though, I think the best way to present this is to play you an audio recording of Master Plan Part 1, Master Plan Part 2, do an overview of Master Plan Part 3, because it doesn't really do well for the audio part of it, and then an audio recording of Master Plan Part 4, and just kind of break in and talk about specific things where it makes sense, right? Because if I didn't do it this way, I would be 3 or 4 days late recording this podcast, and I don't think I would have ended up doing it any different. So this is kind of like the podcaster's dilemma sometimes, is you want to create this very, very in-depth show, but that requires, for every hour that you hear a show that is like a documentary style show, there are many hours that go into creating that show, doing the research and coming up with the script and the whole thing. And after, I don't know, I've been working on this since Tuesday night. And last night I decided, you know what I'm going to do? I am just going to play a clip, because I put the master plans into 11 labs and, picked a good voice for reading or to listen to that isn't annoying. And I'm just going to play you a clip, and then we're going to talk about it. And we're going to do that through Master Plan 1 and 2. We're going to skip 3. We're going to kind of do an overview of 3, and then we'll talk about why. And then we'll do the same thing for 4, and we'll kind of see where we land on this. So let's start with Master Plan Part 1, which came out in 2006. And again, I'm going to play the whole master plan for you so you don't have to listen to me stumbling through the entire master plan. But the thing that I want to get across here is in 2006, I knew that Tesla existed. I did not think they would succeed. I kind of knew who Elon Musk was. And I saw lots of videos of like Elon getting in the original Roadster and impressing journalists with the takeoff speed. You know, the original the Roadster was a converted Lotus, but there was a lot of, kind of excitement around this. But then when I would talk to my friends about it, even into 2008, 2009, it was more of well, this is, for a unique group of people. It's never going to be something that is mass produced. People aren't going to want to buy EV trucks, and it'll never get into the transportation sector and blah, blah, blah. Even though at the time, there were hydrogen and EV hybrid adjacent kind of buses. But yeah, there was a lot of pushback for this technology. So for Elon to write Master Plan Part 1, the feeling that I got from it overall was one of like, hey, we recognize that there are a lot of obstacles ahead of us, but if we can do these things, we might be successful. So let's go ahead and start with Master Plan Part 1. And I just want to remind everybody, this was written in 2006. The original Tesla Roadster was unveiled in June of 2016, but it wasn't released until 2008. So this is prior to any sales. All right, with that, let's go ahead and listen to the Master Plan Part 1.
The secret Tesla Motors Master Plan, just between you and me. Elon Musk, co-founder and CEO of Tesla Motors, August 2nd, 2006. As you know, the initial product of Tesla Motors is a high-performance electric sports car called the Tesla Roadster. However, some readers may not be aware of the fact that our long-term plan is to build a wide range of models, including affordably priced family cars. This is because the overarching purpose of Tesla Motors, and the reason I am funding the company, is to help expedite the move from a mine-and-burn hydrocarbon economy towards a solar-electric economy, which I believe to be the primary but not exclusive sustainable solution. Critical to making that happen is an electric car without compromises, which is why the Tesla Roadster is designed to beat a gasoline sports car like a Porsche or Ferrari in a head-to-head showdown. Then, over and above that fact, it has twice the energy efficiency of a Prius. Even so, some may question whether this actually does any good for the world. Are we really in need of another high-performance sports car? Will it actually make a difference to global carbon emissions? Well, the answers are no and not much. However, that misses the point unless you understand the secret master plan alluded to above. Almost any new technology initially has high unit cost before it can be optimized, and this is no less true for electric cars. The strategy of Tesla is to enter at the high end of the market, where customers are prepared to pay a premium, and then drive down market as fast as possible to higher unit volume and lower prices with each successive model.
Over the years, we have seen and heard a lot of EV startups mimic this same thing, right? We're going to build the expensive car first, and then the more affordable cars are to come. So far, other than like GM and in some instances Hyundai and Kia, they're the only ones that have really given us an affordable model. And I'm mentioning this just here in the U.S. and Canada. At the time, Tesla wasn't exporting these anywhere else. But, the EV startups like Lucid, they've started high, and at this point, they've remained high. Rivian has the R2, which they expect to, start around $48,000, which is great, but it's still pretty high. in terms of it's not a cheap vehicle that anybody can just buy. You have to make a certain income to get that vehicle. It is around the average price of a vehicle, but it's still, higher. All right, let's move on to the next clip.
Without giving away too much, I can say that the second model will be a sporty four-door family car at roughly half the $89,000 price point of the Tesla Roadster.
The original price of the Model S, which did not being, it didn't end up being half the price, but it came in at $57,400, and it had a 40 kilowatt hour battery pack with 160 miles of range. And, that came out and, started volume production in 2012. So later they came out with the signature model, and that was 85 kilowatt hour battery. And that started right around $88,000 and a range of 265 miles. And people were losing their minds over that range. So both of these cars, obviously not quite half of the $80,000 that the Roadster originally cost. Or at least Elon says that it was going to cost in the master plan. Actually, you know what? Let me look and see what the original Tesla Roadster was. I wanted to say it was over 100,000. Terrible podcasting host right here. The original Roadster came in at $98,000 and increased to $120,000 or more, according to Gemini. So, yeah, I mean, this was written 2 years before the Roadster was released and, 6 years before the Model S was released. So, he was off his targets a little bit, but still inspiring and hopeful. Let's hear about the more affordable cars in Master Plan Part 1.
And the third model will be even more affordable. In keeping with a fast-growing technology company, all free cash flow is plowed back into R&D to drive down the costs and bring the follow-on products to market as fast as possible. When someone buys the Tesla Roadster sports car, they are actually helping pay for development of the low-cost family car. Now I'd like to address two repeated arguments against electric vehicles: battery disposal and power plant emissions. The answer to the first is short and simple. The second requires a bit of math. Batteries that are not toxic to the environment. I wouldn't recommend them as a dessert topping, but the Tesla Motors lithium-ion cells are not classified as hazardous and are landfill safe. However, dumping them in the trash would be throwing money away, since the battery pack can be sold to recycling companies unsubsidized at the end of its greater than 100,000-mile design life. Moreover, the battery isn't dead at that point, it just has less range. Power plant emissions, aka the long tailpipe. A common rebuttal to electric vehicles as a solution to carbon emissions is that they simply transfer the CO2 emissions to the power plant. The obvious counter is that one can develop grid electric power from a variety of means, many of which, like hydro, wind, geothermal, nuclear, solar, etc., involve no CO2 emissions. However, let's assume for the moment that the electricity is generated from a hydrocarbon source like natural gas, the most popular fuel for new U.S. power plants in recent years. The H-System combined cycle generator from General Electric is 60% efficient in turning natural gas into electricity. Combined cycle is where the natural gas is burned to generate electricity, and then the waste heat is used to create steam that powers a second generator. Natural gas recovery is 97.5% efficient. Processing is also 97.5% efficient, and then transmission efficiency over the electric grid is 92% on average. This gives us a well-to-electric outlet efficiency of 97.5% times 97.5% times 60% times 92% equals 52.5%. Despite a body shape, tires, and gearing aimed at high performance rather than peak efficiency, the Tesla Roadster requires 0.4 megajoules per kilometer, or, stated another way, will travel 2.53 kilometers per megajoule of electricity. The full cycle charge and discharge efficiency of the Tesla Roadster is 86%, which means that for every 100 megajoules of electricity used to charge the battery, about 86 megajoules reaches the motor. Bringing the math together, we get the final figure of merit of 2.53 kilometers per megajoule times 86% times 52.5% equals 1.14 kilometers per megajoule. Let's compare that to the Prius and a few other options normally considered energy efficient. The fully considered well-to-wheel efficiency of a gasoline-powered car is equal to the energy content of gasoline, 34.3 megajoules per liter, minus the refinement and transportation losses, 18.3%, multiplied by the miles per gallon or kilometers per liter. The Prius at an EPA rated 55 miles per gallon therefore has an energy efficiency of 0.56 kilometers per megajoule. This is actually an excellent number compared with a normal car, like the Toyota Camry at 0.28 kilometers per megajoule. Note the term hybrid as applied to cars currently on the road is a misnomer. They are really just gasoline-powered cars with a little battery assistance, and unless you are one of the handful who have an aftermarket hack, the little battery has to be charged from the gasoline engine. Therefore, they can be considered simply as slightly more efficient gasoline-powered cars. If the EPA certified mileage is 55 miles per gallon, then it is indistinguishable from a non-hybrid that achieves 55 miles per gallon. As a friend of mine says, a world 100% full of Prius drivers is still 100% addicted to oil. The CO2 content of any given source fuel is well understood. Natural gas is 14.4 grams of carbon per megajoule, and oil is 19.9 grams of carbon per megajoule. Applying those carbon content levels to the vehicle efficiencies, including as a reference the Honda combusted natural gas and Honda fuel cell natural gas vehicles, the hands-down winner is pure electric. The Tesla Roadster still wins by a hefty margin if you assume the average CO2 per joule of U.S. power production. The higher CO2 content of coal compared to natural gas is offset by the negligible CO2 content of hydro, nuclear, geothermal, wind, solar, etc. The exact power production mixture varies from one part of the country to another and is changing over time, so natural gas is used here as a fixed yardstick. Becoming energy positive.
Honestly, I don't know what that was, but I'm going to leave it in because it's funny. It's funny that the AI voice has a lot of like little ticks. It breathes. You can hear the breath sounds and things like that. But anyway, I don't know what he was going through right there, but I'm going to leave it in. Let's continue on. We don't have much longer.
I should mention that Tesla Motors will be co-marketing sustainable energy products from other companies along with the car. For example, among other choices, we will be offering a modestly sized and priced solar panel from SolarCity, a photovoltaics company, where I am also the principal financier. This system can be installed on your roof in an out-of-the-way location because of its small size, or set up as a carport, and will generate about 50 miles per day of electricity. If you travel less than 350 miles per week, you will therefore be energy positive with respect to your personal transportation. This is a step beyond conserving or even nullifying your use of energy for transport. You will actually be putting more energy back into the system than you consume in transportation. So, in short, the master plan is build sports car. Use that money to build an affordable car. Use that money to build an even more affordable car. While doing above, also provide zero-emission electric power generation options. Don't tell anyone!
Okay, so we've heard a lot of this stuff over the years, the things that Elon is talking about. He talked about how efficient EVs are compared to gas-powered cars, including hybrids. He kind of broke that down. I don't know if his math is right or not, but he broke that down. And then talked about recycling the batteries, after its lifespan of 160,000 miles or whatever it was. And then at the end, he mentioned the Solar City. Now, at the time, Tesla did not own Solar City. Solar City was actually founded by Elon's cousins. And then Elon eventually, through Tesla, absorbed Solar City or acquired Solar City into Tesla, and it became Tesla Energy. The feeling of this is, optimism for me. I'm going to tell you what the feeling is for me. Optimism. Trying to, kind of explain what the rationale is and where the company's going. So it's informational, it's fun and silly with the don't tell anybody and the secret master plan, but he released it so that people could read it. So there's like a little bit of tongue-in-cheek silliness that, Elon's known for. Now, that was in 2006. In 2016, Elon came out with Master Plan Part 2, which is a play on a movie called Hot Shots Part 2, which is like this really silly parody movie of a bunch of action movies. Charlie Sheen's in it. It's been a long time since I've seen it, so I don't really know in terms of like the plot and everything. I don't know, but there was a Hot Shots Part 2, and it's one of those silly Naked Gun style movies. So right around this time, in March of 2016, Tesla unveiled the Model 3. They did not, at this point in time, it wasn't for sale. They just, showed it off. They had a big old press conference or a big old event, and the car was going to start at $35,000. It was set to release late 2017. And, it did not come out at $30,000. It was more than that. It did start making deliveries in July of 2017, so they hit that. For a short period of time, Tesla sold a $35,000 version, but they didn't sell very many of them. And I think that was by design, because I think Tesla was just losing too much money on these cars that they couldn't sell them at that price. Because there was people who had pre-orders for the $35,000 model, and Tesla was like, nah, we're going to cancel your order, or you can move up to one of the higher trims.
You know what's wild? Most people are still overpaying for car insurance just because it's a pain to switch. That's why there's Jerry. Jerry is the only app that compares rates from over 50 insurers in minutes and helps you switch fast with no spam calls or hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Before you renew your car insurance policy, do yourself a favor. Download the Jerry app or head to jerry.ai/acast.
Fall is all about cozy comforts, but when you're prioritizing your health, it's easy to feel like you're missing out. With Hero Bread, you can enjoy all your fall favorites because they're made with Hero Bread sliced bread loaves, tortillas, bagels, dinner rolls, and more. Try their all-new Hero Noodles with 12 grams of protein and just 80 calories. So skip replacing every carb with cauliflower and indulge in your breakfast, lunch, and dinner time favorites while still hitting your goals. From breakfast bagels and meal prepped enchiladas to mouth-watering burgers and cheesy noodles. You won't believe Hero Bread's options have 0 to 5 grams net carbs and are high fiber from the taste and texture. They've even got small batch drops of indulgent favorites like the popular Hero Croissant. And right now, Hero Bread is offering 10% off your order. Go to hero.co and use code FALL25 at checkout. That's fall25 at hero.co. All figures are per serving of Hero Bread. Contains 2 to 18 grams of fat per serving. See the product nutrition panels on hero.co for more information.
No one knows your business better than you. So who better to create your website than, well, you. Wix's website builder puts it all in your hands. Create a beautiful website just by talking with AI or choosing from thousands of templates. Customize every detail with simple drag-and-drop tools and get everything you need to start running business your way. Build more, think bigger, and do it all yourself on Wix. Go to Wix.com.
At Capella University, learning online doesn't mean learning alone. You'll get support from people who care about your success. Like your enrollment specialist, who gets to know you and the goals you'd like to achieve. You'll also get a designated academic coach who's with you throughout your entire program. Plus, career coaches are available to help you navigate your professional goals. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
So with that in mind, let's go ahead and move on to Master Plan Part 2.
Master Plan Part 2. Elon Musk, July 20th, 2016. The first master plan that I wrote 10 years ago is now in the final stages of completion. It wasn't all that complicated and basically consisted of create a low-volume car, which would necessarily be expensive. Use that money to develop a medium-volume car at a lower price. Use that money to create an affordable, high-volume car. And provide solar power. No kidding. This has literally been on our website for 10 years. The reason we had to start off with step 1 was that it was all I could afford to do with what I made from PayPal. I thought our chances of success were so low that I didn't want to risk anyone's funds in the beginning, but my own. The list of successful car company startups is short. As of 2016, the number of American car companies that haven't gone bankrupt is a grand total of 2, Ford and Tesla. Starting a car company is idiotic, and an electric car company is idiocy squared. Also, a low-volume car means a much smaller, simpler factory, albeit with most things done by hand. Without economies of scale, anything we built would be expensive, whether it was an economy sedan or a sports car. While at least some people would be prepared to pay a high price for a sports car, no one was going to pay $100,000 for an electric Honda Civic, no matter how cool it looked. Part of the reason I wrote the first master plan was to defend against the inevitable attacks Tesla would face, accusing us of just caring about making cars for rich people, implying that we felt there was a shortage of sports car companies or some other bizarre rationale. Unfortunately, the blog didn't stop countless attack articles on exactly these grounds, so it pretty much completely failed that objective. And however, the main reason was to explain how our actions fit into a larger picture so that they would seem less random. The point of all this was and remains accelerating the advent of sustainable energy so that we can imagine far into the future and life is still good. That's what sustainable means. It's not some silly hippie thing. It matters for everyone. By definition, we must at some point achieve a sustainable energy economy, or we will run out of fossil fuels to burn and civilization will collapse. Given that we must get off fossil fuels anyway, and that virtually all scientists agree that dramatically increasing atmospheric and oceanic carbon levels is insane. The faster we achieve sustainability, the better. Here is what we plan to do to make that day come sooner. Integrate energy generation and storage. Create a smoothly integrated and beautiful solar roof with battery product that just works, empowering the individual as their own utility, and then scale that throughout the world. One ordering experience, one installation, one service contact, one phone app. We can't do this well if Tesla and SolarCity are different companies, which is why we need to combine and break down the barriers inherent to being separate companies, that they are separate at all, despite similar origins, and pursuit of the same overarching goal of sustainable energy is largely an accident of history. Now that Tesla is ready to scale Powerwall and SolarCity is ready to provide highly differentiated solar, the time has come to bring them together.
Okay, during this time, the the thought of Tesla, which is a company that was barely surviving, acquiring another company like the size of SolarCity with, and I don't know if you remember this, but SolarCity at the time had all of these solar leases. So SolarCity put up the money up front to put these solar panels on the roof, and then they were getting paid most of the time monthly through a solar lease. The solar panels on my roof are solar leases. And at some point in time, in the not too distant future, Tesla's going to come knocking, wanting them back, and they're probably going to get them back, and I'll deal with something else at that time to work out more efficient solar panels or whatever, a different plan. But my wife and I decided, instead of paying this every single month over 20 years, we're just going to pay it outright, and we got a hefty discount. I think all in all, we paid at the time for our 2 systems that we have, because we bought one small one at first, and then we ended up buying a bigger one, and we had the incentives from our power company. I think there was some state incentives and things like that as well. I think we ended up paying like $16,000 total over 2 different purchases. One was like $8,000 or $9,000, and the other one was, whatever the difference is, or maybe it was $6,000, and the other one was $9,000. Whatever. It didn't end up being all that much when you considered the small system we were going to buy at the time through another solar company, and this would be one that we actually owned outright. That one had like a 5-year warranty and was $21,000 for the one that we paid $8,000 for, and it was a 5-year warranty. If my solar panels get anything happens to my solar panels, Tesla comes out to fix them. The inverters, Tesla comes out to fix them all the way up until the 20-year lease is done. So, I think it ended up being a pretty good deal, because we've had to have certain things replaced multiple times over the time we've owned them. Not recently, but over the time we've owned them. So yeah, it was just kind of like, if you look at that model of, hey, you're upfronting all of the costs. Now, Solar City got all of these tax incentives to do this. I don't know that it was enough to really make the company all that profitable. It seemed like Solar City at the time, and I was still new doing this, was in financial hurt. And Tesla was also not doing well financially. So the thought of a company that was always on the verge of failure, Tesla, buying another company that was leveraged, Solar City, was a terrible idea. But, Tesla bought them and they ended up working it out. Did they need to buy them? I don't know. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next clip, which is talking about the different models of cars or transportation.
Expand to cover the major forms of terrestrial transport. Today, Tesla addresses two relatively small segments of premium sedans and SUVs. With the Model 3, a future compact SUV, and a new kind of pickup truck, we plan to address most of the consumer market. A lower-cost vehicle than the Model 3 is unlikely to be necessary because of the third part of the plan described below. What really matters to accelerate a sustainable future is being able to scale up production volume as quickly as possible. That is why Tesla engineering has transitioned to focus heavily on designing the machine that makes the machine, turning the factory itself into a product. A first principles physics analysis of automotive production suggests that somewhere between a 5 to 10-fold improvement is achievable by version 3 on a roughly 2-year iteration cycle. The first model, 3-factory machine, should be thought of as version 0.5, with version 1.0 probably in 2018.
Man, Elon was talking about the machine that built the machine so much back then. And it turns out, through hubris, ended up causing a lot of problems with the initial manufacturing of the Model 3, because this is the first time they tried it, was with the Model 3. And there were just things that the Elon's, machines could not do as well as humans. And trying to solve that ended up causing a lot of problems and a lot of nights for Elon at the factory, a lot of tears for people working there, because there were reports of, Elon getting super angry and yelling at people and all that other stuff. And Elon during that time did not look healthy. And it seemed that maybe that they had to kind of change their thought on the machine that builds the machine. Now, Tesla's made a lot of really amazing advances in the manufacturing process. A lot of the things that other car companies have taken and run with. And then also, Tesla borrowed from car companies as well in the manufacturing. But they've made a lot of improvements, and that's kind of served them well when it comes to being able to build electric cars. At the time, legacy automakers were like, oh, we're going to come out with EVs, and it's not that hard. We build cars. We know how to build cars. These are the legacy automakers talking, and they would come out, we're going to have 20 models by 2020. And it turns out, most of them didn't have any. It wasn't until 2023, 2024 that they really started kind of cooking on the EV front. And even then, they were still struggling. GM's just now figuring it out. Ford had a good start, but they only have 3 EVs that they sell, the F-150 Lightning, the Mach-E, and their Transit van. You would think that a company that had a big hit with the Mach-E and the F-150 Lightning at this point would have more than 2 passenger vehicles and 1 commercial vehicle. You think they'd have more than that, but they don't. So it was harder than they thought. All right, let's move on.
In addition to consumer vehicles, there are two other types of electric vehicle needed: heavy-duty trucks and high-passenger density urban transport. Both are in the early stages of development at Tesla and should be ready for unveiling next year. We believe the Tesla Semi will deliver a substantial reduction in the cost of cargo transport while increasing safety and making it really fun to operate. With the advent of autonomy, it will probably make sense to shrink the size of buses and transition the role of bus driver to that of fleet manager. Traffic congestion would improve due to increased passenger aerial density by eliminating the center aisle and putting seats where there are currently entryways, and matching acceleration and braking to other vehicles, thus avoiding the inertial impedance to smooth traffic flow of traditional heavy buses. It would also take people all the way to their destination. Fixed summon buttons at existing bus stops would serve those who don't have a phone. Design accommodates wheelchairs, strollers, and bikes. Autonomy. As the technology matures, all Tesla vehicles will have the hardware necessary to be fully self-driving with fail operational capability, meaning that any given system in the car could break, and your car will still drive itself safely. It is important to emphasize that refinement and validation of the software will take much longer than putting in place the cameras, radar, sonar, and computing hardware. Even once the software is highly refined and far better than the average human driver, there will still be a significant time gap, varying widely by jurisdiction, before true self-driving is approved by regulators. We expect that worldwide regulatory approval will require something on the order of 6 billion miles, 10 billion kilometers. Current fleet learning is happening at just over 3 million miles, 5 million kilometers per day. I should add a note here to explain why Tesla is deploying partial autonomy now, rather than waiting until some point in the future. The most important reason is that, when used correctly, it is already significantly safer than a person driving by themselves, and it would therefore be morally reprehensible to delay release simply for fear of bad press or some mercantile calculation of legal liability.
I have a comment on this. If you're saying that it is morally reprehensible to not release a car with partial autonomy because it's safer, because the bean counters over in accounting think that it's going to be cost us too much money or be too much liability or whatever the reason, right? Why would you charge $15,000 at one point in time for full self-driving? Because you're saying full self-driving, or FSD supervised, is safer than autopilot, and we're just going to use today's terms because they didn't really have these terms mapped out completely in 2016. If it's morally irreprehensible to withhold partial self-driving because of monetary reasons or liability reasons, wouldn't it be morally irreprehensible to charge multiples of thousands of dollars for this technology? Because if your stated goal, and Elon was talked about this a lot back in the day, about how much safer it is to use autopilot, and he still talks about it a little bit, but it was a lot more back then, how much safer it is to use autopilot and full self-driving. Why wouldn't you, if you don't care about money and you don't care about the liability and you just want to keep people safe, why wouldn't you either A, offer full self-driving at a much lower price, between $1,000 and $2,500, whatever, or why wouldn't you just say, you know what, we're going to include it in every single car for free? If that's your reasoning. This is one of the problems that I've always had with Elon's messaging on full self-driving, is it's so much safer than anything else, whether it's partial autonomy or just regular humans driving and fumbling their way through their surface streets and freeways. It's so much safer, but yet you charge a premium on that safety. Now, whether it's safer or not, there's some arguing. There's some data that maybe says that Tesla has cooked some of their numbers, or there's some investigating on whether or not Tesla has cooked some of their numbers when it comes to the actual safety of their vehicles. But Yeah, that always bugged me. And it still bugs me. Let's move on.
According to the recently released 2015 NHTSA report, automotive fatalities increased by 8% to 1 death every 89 million miles. Autopilot miles will soon exceed twice that number, and the system gets better every day. It would no more make sense to disable Tesla's autopilot, as some have called for, than it would to disable autopilot in aircraft, after which our system is named. It is also important to explain why we refer to autopilot as beta. This is not beta software in any normal sense of the word. Every release goes through extensive internal validation before it reaches any customers. It is called beta in order to decrease complacency and indicate that it will continue to improve. Autopilot is always off by default. Once we get to the point where autopilot is approximately 10 times safer than the U.S. vehicle average, the beta label will be removed. Sharing. When true self-driving is approved by regulators, it will mean that you will be able to summon your Tesla from pretty much anywhere. Once it picks you up, you will be able to sleep, read, or do anything else en route to your destination. You will also be able to add your car to the Tesla shared fleet just by tapping a button on the Tesla phone app and have it generate income for you while you're at work or on vacation, significantly offsetting and at times potentially exceeding the monthly loan or lease cost. This dramatically lowers the true cost of ownership to the point where almost anyone could own a Tesla. Since most cars are only in use by their owner for 5% to 10% of the day, the fundamental economic utility of a true self-driving car is likely to be several times that of a car which is not. In cities where demand exceeds the supply of customer-owned cars, Tesla will operate its own fleet, ensuring you can always hail a ride from us no matter where you are. So, in short, Master Plan. Part 2 is create stunning solar roofs with seamlessly integrated battery storage. Expand the electric vehicle product line to address all major segments. Develop a self-driving capability that is 10 times safer than manual via massive fleet learning. So that enable your car to make money for you when you aren't using it.
Okay. So, he talked about the EV, EV truck, which ended up being the Cybertruck, which, did not work out the way that he thought it would. Let's see. The main objectives of part 2 was expand the vehicle product line, sedans, SUVs, semi-trucks, people mover. You can call it a bus, but it was the RoboVan or whatever, Robovian, whatever Tesla called it. It was a dumb name. And then he talked about seamless solar and battery integration at a residential level through the Powerwall. I don't know if he talked about the Power Pack and so much. That's more of a master plan part 3. Talked about autonomy, about how it's safe. It's self-driving is safer than humans. All Tesla vehicles to ship with full hardware suite for autonomy. And then, the robotaxi fleet, which, this was in 2016. We're just now getting to in 2005, so 9 years later. The tone of this was confident, ambitious. It's like, Tesla is a car company, but it's integrated in full mobility and energy. The big news, and everybody was super excited, including myself, on the autonomy and the fleet sharing. And then, it was kind of more like consumer friendly, like, it promised lower costs and convenience and, ease of use, like order everything, make it easy. And I think largely Tesla has done that. Like you can order Tesla energy products fairly simple, Tesla, vehicles fairly simple, not as simple as Elon makes it sound, because you still got to deal with like loans and stuff like that. But overall, fairly easy. In terms of where we are, we have the semi, it's kind of being delivered. We have the Cybertruck. We have the sedans and the SUVs or the crossovers. Still don't have the RoboVan, whatever it's called. But we do have Powerwalls and mega packs and things like that, and autonomy is on its way. It's not here yet. And the robotaxi, it's here. It's just not here at the level. They're still testing. It's not where I think Elon wanted it to be this far out, but it's getting there. Now let's move on to Master Plan Part 3. And honestly, the first two felt like Elon sat down at his desktop or his laptop on the way to a meeting, or on, when I say on the way to a meeting, on his private jet, just working this out. Maybe even a pencil and paper kind of a feel, right? On the back of a napkin. And then we get to Master Plan Part 3, which really reads like a white paper. They have all of the contributors who contributed to Master Plan Part 3. It's like 40 something pages. It's got a table of contents. It's got graphs and a bunch of other stuff. And, to save you a little bit of time, it really kind of comes down to energy. There was like different main objectives, like support the existing grid with renewables, solar, wind, and other clean energy sources. Switch to electric cars, obviously, using heat pumps. I don't know if you remember, but Elon was really big at homes and businesses and different industries adopting heat pumps into their HVAC systems. Hydrogen, talked about using that, green hydrogen, synthetic fuels, that kind of thing, for air and sea transport. Build batteries, solar panels, wind turbines at scale. Some of the kind of like the big numbers from the plan, and this all kind of came out in an infographic that Tesla had on there. But in order to get away from fossil fuels for energy, you would need something like 240 terawatt hours of required battery storage, 30 terawatts of renewable energy capacity, a $10 trillion investment. And this is globally, not just in one area. $10 trillion investment, 0.21% of land area. When you take all of the land in the world, it would take up 0.21% of land area for the required renewable generation. And yeah, there was a little bit of hope isn't the right word I'm looking for. A little bit of basically, it said no insurmountable resource challenges. This is all feasible with existing materials and tech. And, that was in 2016. We are currently in 2025, and I don't think we're very close to this at all, even with all of the renewable energy projects that are happening. And then if we look at this in, kind of reality terms here, EV adoption is growing. We'll see what happens over the next couple of months, but it's growing. I think it's going to decline a little bit, like I said, and then continue growing after that. Renewables are expanding with the current administration. It's kind of iffy how much they're going to expand here in the U.S. anyway. Heat pumps are becoming more popular. I know quite a few people who put heat pumps on their house. Electric or hydrogen powered boats and planes, that's still in early process, still need some R&D. So yeah, overall, this is not bad. I think it's an overabundance of optimism in terms of, hey, we can get this done, because you have to get local governments on board, federal governments on board, countries on board. It just goes on and on and on and on to get people to get everybody to agree. I don't think that's a reasonable. I don't think that's a reasonable expectation. Like maybe in a perfect world, in a utopia, and we'll talk about utopias with part 4. In a utopia, maybe that would be the case. But as it is now, 9 years later, no, this was in 2023. So 2 years later, we're not really close to this, and it doesn't seem like we're close to getting this done anytime soon.
You know what's wild? Most people are still overpaying for car insurance just because it's a pain to switch. That's why there's Jerry. Jerry's the only app that compares rates from over 50 insurers in minutes and helps you switch fast with no spam calls or hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Before you renew your car insurance policy, do yourself a favor. Download the Jerry app or head to jerry.ai/acast.
What's it like to care for someone who's sick? To wait for answers, to hope for healing. These are the moments our nation's healthcare teams and their patients face every single day. And it's why we do what we do. We're Siemens Healthineers, and we pioneer breakthroughs in healthcare for everyone, everywhere. Across the country, from rural communities to busy cities, our medical imaging, therapy, and laboratory solutions help providers deliver care that can be smarter, faster, and more precise. With more than 17,000 employees across the United States, we're driving innovations that support healthcare teams, strengthen systems, and truly change people's lives. Because for us, it's about more than technology, more than innovation. It's a promise, built for generations. Siemens Healthineers.
All right, now that leads us to part 4.
Since Tesla's founding, each iteration of our master plan has focused on our North Star, to deliver unconstrained sustainability without compromise. Humans are tool makers. At Tesla, we make physical products at scale and at a low cost with the goal of making life better for everyone. As the influence and impact of artificial intelligence, AI, technology increases, the mission set forth in Master Plan. Part 4 should come as no surprise. This next chapter in Tesla's story will help create a world we've only just begun to imagine, and will do so at a scale that we have yet to see. We are building the products and services that bring AI into the physical world. We have been working tirelessly for nearly 2 decades to create the foundation for this technological renaissance through the development of electric vehicles, energy products, and humanoid robots. And now, we are combining our manufacturing capabilities with our autonomous prowess to deliver new products and services that will accelerate global prosperity and human thriving, driven by economic growth shared by all. We are unifying our hardware and software at scale, and in doing so, we are creating a safer, cleaner, and more enjoyable world. This is sustainable abundance.
Okay, so when I was reading through this, at this point right here, when I hear sustainable abundance, it lost me a little bit. A lot of outlets are calling this AI slop, as if, Grok wrote this. And maybe Grok did. I don't know. But it feels very much like this utopian promise that throughout the world, throughout history, certain people have made these utopian promises. And I'm not calling Tesla or Elon Musk a dishonest actor here, but it feels very culty, like, I'm going to promise you the world. All you need to do is trust in me because I am your savior. And I'm not the only one that feels this way. A lot of people had a similar reaction to this. Now, one of the reasons why I waited so long to record this, or at least, trying to figure out how to present it, is because I had such an adverse reaction to this whole thing. I was like, I almost didn't even talk about it. I almost just left it alone. So the first 2 master plans, they had a feeling. There's a reason why I did a little wrap up at the end of each one, right? The first 2 had a feeling of like, hey, part 1 is like, hey, we're building something, and here are some arguments you might have, and here's our counter arguments. Okay, so that's great. In part 2, they were confident and ambitious and looking forward, and here are all the cool things that we're going to do. And there's a customer-friendly feel, like you're going to be able to afford all of these things, which a little bit in part 4 too. And part 3 was kind of like a sterilized academic paper that, while the information in it is interesting, there's nothing to get excited about. There's no feeling, there's no personality, there's no there's no soul to that. It's pretty soulless. It's pretty corporate, it's like, here are some things that we could do to get off fossil fuels. And again, maybe all the things in that part 3 were accurate and true, but there are a lot of things that have to go into place before that becomes a reality. So yeah, so that we have that. So let's go ahead and move on to the next section, which is about their guiding principles. And it's going to start off with growth is infinite. Whenever I hear that growth is infinite or something to that line, that or the sustainable abundance, it sets me on edge. Like right now, I'm all tensed up and kind of like Hunchback of Notre Dame. That's like how my posture is. It feels dishonest when I hear these promises without anything attached to them. No reasons why growth is infinite. No reasons why we can have sustainable abundance. This is kind of like a pie in the sky schoolboy or schoolgirl's dream of what the future might look like. All right, let's go ahead and get to that growth is infinite part.
Growth is infinite. Growth in one area does not require decline in another. Shortages in resources can be remedied by improved technology, greater innovation, and new ideas. The technologies that gave us the ability to power machines led to industrial revolutions that have widened our economic landscape, creating more opportunities for all. Groundbreaking inventions like the semiconductor and the internet have expanded, not diminished, social and economic opportunities across all aspects of the human experience, from creating more jobs to providing greater access to information to enabling deeper interpersonal connections. Our desire to push beyond what is considered achievable will foster the growth needed for truly sustainable abundance. Innovation removes constraints. For centuries, humanity's primary mode of transportation was the horse. Then, over the last 50-plus years, cars with internal combustion engines powered by fossil fuels became the standard and expected transportation method. The idea that batteries could be produced affordably and at a scale large enough to pivot the transportation industry away from fossil fuels seemed a fool's errand, until Tesla led the way forward. Through continued innovation, we have overcome the technological constraints of battery development and built an industry powered by renewable resources. Technology solves tangible problems, and the products and services born out of the acceleration toward sustainable abundance will advance humanity by solving real-world problems. To further accelerate our innovation, we build each product more efficiently and more sustainably than the last. Solar energy generation and large-scale battery storage are increasing the availability and reliability of clean electricity in our communities, and are doing so more affordably and more sustainably. Autonomous vehicles have the capacity to dramatically improve the affordability, availability, and safety of transportation while reducing pollution, particularly in our increasingly dense global cities. Optimus, our autonomous humanoid robot, is changing not only the perception of labor itself, but its availability and capability. Jobs and tasks that are particularly monotonous or dangerous can now be accomplished by other means. In this way, Optimus's mission is to give people back more time to do what they love. Autonomy must benefit all of humanity. The tools we make at Tesla help us build the products that advance human prosperity. How we develop and use autonomy and the new capabilities it makes available to us should be informed by its ability to enhance the human condition, making daily life better and safer for all people through our autonomous technology has always been and continues to be our focus.
One could argue that your focus should be cars, as you are a car and energy company. Not to say that you should ignore AI, but, this has very little to do with cars. And some of the criticisms, about Tesla is that they're not innovating in the car space anymore because their focus, or Elon's focus, is pulled into a bunch of other places. And that's a legitimate criticism. whether it's, accurate or not, I couldn't tell you because I'm not with Elon on a day-to-day basis. I only see him on the weekends. But yeah, I mean, I genuinely, it does seem like his focus is elsewhere. All right, let's talk more about how greater access drives greater growth.
Greater access drives greater growth. Making technologically advanced products that are affordable and available at scale is required to build a flourishing and unconstrained society. It serves to further democratize society while raising everyone's quality of life in the process. The hallmark of meritocracy is creating opportunities that enable each person to use their skills to accomplish whatever they imagine. Everyone deserves access to these opportunities, Ateso, and technological growth can help ensure that each of us is able to maximize our most limited resource, time. We're accelerating the world's transition to sustainable abundance. We must make one thing clear. This challenge will be extremely difficult to overcome. The elimination of scarcity will require tireless and exquisite execution. Some will perceive it as impossible, and plenty of others will laud every obstacle and setback we inevitably encounter along the way. But once we overcome this challenge, our critics will come to see that what they once thought was impossible is indeed possible. And that will be fine with us, because what matters most is that, together, we create a sustainable and truly abundant future for generations to come. All worthwhile journeys are long, and they all begin with the first step. Our first step was to make an exciting sports car, Roadster. Then we leveraged those profits to fund the development and production of more affordable, yet still exciting products, Model S and Model X. Then we repeated the process, bringing us to Model 3 and Model Y and onward. This process required us to take many steps, some of them small and others large. But ultimately, each win led to another win, and even with our failures, we were able to keep building momentum. Our momentum allowed us to build out a fully integrated ecosystem of sustainable products, from transport to energy generation, battery storage, and robotics. Today we are on the cusp of a revolutionary period primed for unprecedented growth. And this time, it will not be a single step but a leap forward for Tesla and humanity as a whole. The tools we are going to develop will help us build the kind of world that we've always dreamed of, a world of sustainable abundance, by redefining the fundamental building blocks of labor, mobility, and energy at scale and for all.
If I was going to ask AI, whether it was Grok or ChatGPT or Gemini, to write me a master plan for my company and use sustainable abundance and infinite growth in different ways, but also just continue repeating it, I do believe this would be something similar to what I would get. Now, do I disagree with this? No. I think that at some point in time, we will be to a point as a civilization, as humans, that you can live a life of more leisure. Life was hard back in the 1800s. I do not go out and plow my field every single day like a lot of people did. And then in the wintertime, if I was not successful at growing crops, I don't starve to death. So naturally, life is easier now than it was in the 1800s. Will everybody live a life of leisure 100 years from now? Probably not. We'll probably still have jobs. I'm going to tell you what I really think this is. I think this is I don't think this is a master plan. I think this is a pitch to get people to buy into the AI revolution and allow, Tesla to absorb or take over or acquire XAI or X or whatever it ends up being, or whatever Elon has. The namings are just all over the place for me. But anyway, I think this is a pitch for that. It also is interesting that this came out on, I think it was on Monday, the master plan of, everybody like, we're going to build this and it's going to be an age of abundance and everybody's going to get sustainable abundance. Everybody's going to be able to do what they want and have a great life. Oh, and by the way, yesterday or this morning, Tesla announced a plan. Tesla announced a $1 trillion pay package for Elon. $1 trillion. And there are certain benchmarks that need to happen for him to get a full $1 trillion payday or stock equivalent. Certain things have to happen, but one of those benchmarks is Tesla needs to be worth $8.5 trillion in order for him to get that full $1 trillion stock or that pay package. I don't know. I don't buy into the Elon's dumb and he's just writing off the successes of other people. I don't think that that's true. I think Elon's very intelligent and he's made some big bets. He's failed and he's been successful. I don't think Elon, on the other side of things, is the messiah that some people in the Tesla community see him as either. I think he's a human and he makes mistakes and, just like every other human. He's largely been lucky, but he's also very smart. But I don't think he's worth 1/8. If Tesla's worth $1.5 or $8.5 trillion, I don't think he's worth 1/8 of the company. Like if Tesla was worth $50 trillion, sure, throw him $1 trillion. But if you're saying that he's worth 1/8 of the company, just him, outlets, and I don't know if this is true, but outlets are saying the board gave him this pay package, and it still needs to be voted on. But the board gave him this pay package because they want his focus. If Elon says that he doesn't care about money, I don't know how this is going to keep his focus. Because other people are, when he's out and doing other things, other people are running the day-to-day operations. He might still be involved. I'm not saying he's a complete absentee CEO, but he's not there every single day. And because of that, there are other people who are doing all the legwork. He might be making all the decisions. I don't like, this just seems like a ridiculous amount. Should trillionaires exist? I don't really care if trillionaires exist. I don't care if billionaires exist. None of that bothers me. Like, you can do a lot of things for your employees for $1 trillion, and for a company that's so against unionizing, we are sure letting the guy at the top negotiate his best possible pay package. For sure. I mean, he was denied a $54 billion pay package, and you think shareholders aren't going to rise up over $1 trillion? That's you're out of your head. Okay, everybody, that is it for me. We've gone for an hour. I definitely could have gone for 3 hours on this subject. What it comes down to is I don't think this is a master plan. I do think this is just a plea or a rationale to acquire XAI because it's in the master plan that it's going to be beneficial to Tesla, even though Tesla has its own AI team. And then also, if Elon gets to live in a lap of luxury, you can live in sustainable abundance because of Tesla. To be fair to Elon, somebody on X asked him, hey, I need more details because this lacks any sort of details on how you're going to get these done. There's just a lot of platitudes isn't the right word, but there's just a lot of vague, imagine a world. And Elon said, to his credit, he said, yeah, we'll do that. We'll get you some more details. So I think that's good. We'll revisit this at that time. All right, everybody, that is it for me. If you want to email me, it's Bodie, BODIE at 918digital.com. You can find me on Twitter at 918digital. And yeah, that's it. I'm on LinkedIn. You just search for Bodie Grimm, BODIEGRIMM. And next week, hopefully we'll get back on track. I got lots of stories in the queue, and we'll talk about those and clear out that queue as we go forward. All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon. A bit more on Elon's pay package. Tesla has filed its proxy statement for the November 6th, 2025 shareholder meeting, and included in it is Elon's new 2025 CEO Performance Award. If approved, the plan could be worth up to $900 billion to $1 trillion in Tesla stock, potentially making Elon the world's first trillionaire. Here's what it would take. Tesla's market cap would need to grow from today's roughly $1.1 trillion to $8.5 trillion. For context, that's more than double NVIDIA's current $4.2 trillion valuation, and larger than Apple, Microsoft, and Saudi Aramco combined. Tesla would need to hit ambitious operational milestones, delivering 20 million vehicles, reaching 10 million active FSD subscriptions, putting 1 million robotaxis into service, and delivering 1 million AI bots. Profits would also have to climb from $17 billion last year to about $400 billion annually. Tesla's board frames the package as a way to retain Elon and keep him incentivized to deliver on these aggressive goals. If successful, his stake in Tesla would rise from 13% to 25%, giving him even greater control, and aligning with Elon's stated desire to own a quarter of the company.
Fall is all about cozy comforts, but when you're prioritizing your health, it's easy to feel like you're missing out. With Hero Bread, you can enjoy all your fall favorites because they're made with Hero Bread sliced bread loaves, tortillas, bagels, dinner rolls, and more. Try their all-new Hero Noodles with 12 grams of protein and just 80 calories. So skip replacing every carb with cauliflower and indulge in your breakfast, lunch, and dinner time favorites while still hitting your goals. From breakfast bagels and meal-prepped enchiladas to mouth-watering burgers and cheesy noodles. You won't believe Hero Bread's options have 0 to 5 grams net carbs and are high fiber from the taste and texture. They've even got small batch drops of indulgent favorites like the popular Hero Croissant. And right now, Hero Bread is offering 10% off your order. Go to hero.co and use code FALL25 at checkout. That's fall25 at hero.co. All figures are per serving of Hero Bread. Contains 2 to 18 grams of fat per serving. See the product nutrition panels on hero.co for more information.
El rugido de los aficionados, el ritmo de las porras, la intensidad en la cancha. Esto es más que solo un partido de fútbol. Con DraftKings Sportsbook, esta es tu oportunidad de convertir cada jugada en una gran ganancia. Descarga la app de DraftKings Sportsbook y usa el código HEART. Ese es el código HEART para que los nuevos usuarios reciban $200 en bonus bets al instante cuando apuestes solo $5. En asociación con DraftKings, la corona es tuya. ¿Problemas con el juego? Llama al 1-800-GAMBLER. En Nueva York, llama al 877-8-HOPE-NY o envía un mensaje de texto con la palabra HOPE-NY al 467-369. En Connecticut, hay ayuda disponible para problemas con el juego. Llama al 888-789-7777 o visita ccpg.org. Juega responsablemente. En nombre de Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. Debe ser mayor de 21 años. La elegibilidad varía según la jurisdicción. No válido en Ontario. Pueden aplicarse cargos en Illinois. Las apuestas de bonos son de un solo uso. La apuesta no se incluye en las ganancias y caducan después de ser otorgadas. La oferta finaliza el 29 de septiembre 2025 a las 11:59 p.m. hora del este. Los términos en DraftKings.com/sportsbook/promos.
Across America, healthcare teams are managing complex demands. At Siemens Healthineers, we're here to help. With more than 17,000 U.S. team members, we're pioneering breakthroughs in medical imaging, therapy, and laboratory diagnostics, giving healthcare teams the tools to deliver smarter, faster, more precise care. Because when the right technology meets the right moment, diagnoses are clearer, treatments more effective, and lives can truly change. For us, it's more than innovation. It's a promise built for generations. Siemens Healthineers.